What's up, everyone? All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to give you my watch list for Monday morning and the game plan for the week ahead. Last week was our first full week for the month of May, and it was fantastic. A really terrific week. I finished with $161,000 in profit, green 5 out of 5 days last week, and solid green days. I mean, my daily average has been like 30 plus $1,000. So definitely in a really nice groove here. And I think it's worth taking a moment to kind of look at the profile of the type of stocks I was making the most money on last week, so we know exactly what to look for bright and early Monday morning. Okay, so high level, let's sort this data just by this month is fine. So we'll just look at the last like 7 days. All right, so sorting it for this month, I'm going to do a detailed report, and what we're going to get dialed in on are a couple different characteristics. What we're trying to understand is, we want to create a profile of the type of stocks I'm making the most money on, so we know what to look for. And I suspect there are a set of common denominators that all of these big winners have in common. So now, if we see another stock that meets, 4, 5, 6 of these kind of common denominators, so to speak, then we see it and it's only up, 15 or 20%, then we may have the inclination that this is the type that could go up 100%, 200%, maybe more, and I should be more aggressive on it. I think one of the most important things in this market is making sure you're trading the right stocks. Traders who are trading the right stocks are going to be doing better. However, in a hot market, you will notice attention can get dispersed. A lot of stocks start popping up as traders are quick to jump on kind of anything that's moving, but a lot of them will pop and then reject. So which ones are popping and actually holding, and what's the catalyst that's driving them? So looking at the days and times, predominantly making the most right now, actually, interestingly, between 7 and 8. But I think that's just been because this past week, we've had a number of stocks that have had breaking news right at 7 or 7:15 or 7:30. So between the hour of 7 and 8. Whereas, during other weeks, and actually like 2 weeks ago, we were seeing a lot of news headlines at 8 a.m. and 8:30. So this is, I don't think, quite as relevant, but just that's the high level. So now let's look at price. So interestingly, making more money on stocks between 2 and 5. And I'll tell you why I think that's the case. When I see a stock that pops up on my scanners and it's between 2 and 5, I can take more shares. So between $2 and $5, I can easily buy in 10,000 share blocks, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, maybe 40,000 shares. It goes up 40 cents on 40,000 shares. I'm up $16,000 in one trade. That's not unrealistic. A 40-cent move on a $15 stock, I'm not going to have 40,000 shares of it. It's way too expensive. So I might only have maybe 10,000 shares. So I'm only making $4,000 on that same 40-cent move. So lower price stocks I can make more money on because I usually feel more comfortable taking larger share size. And if we look back at some of the moves from Friday, NVVE was one that I did really well on. And this is one that I felt very comfortable taking a big share size on. It was very liquid. It was, there was no problem getting in and getting out with 30, 40,000 shares. It squeezed from $1.90 here up to $2.20, pulled back, then it goes up to $2.60. With big size, you can do really well with those kind of moves. So NVVE is a good example of that. And there were several others. NXTT, this one ended up going up actually over 1,000% on Friday. This move from, was it a low of like 30 cents a share all the way to $5? So 1,600%. Wow. All right, so that's a price range where I can do really well pre-market and after hours. But what happens during regular trading hours on this type of stock? It halts like crazy. It keeps getting halted. And those halts are going to make it harder to get in and get out easily, right? You're going to get in and instantly it's halted. So it's not as easy to move in and out of it. Now, the $5 to $10 price range still did well on that. And I do like that price range for the fact that you can, when they are moving quickly, get more like 50 cents to $1 a share, which is nice. And then the 10 to 20 range, that's where it starts to get a little riskier. So there's a little bit of a bell curve, and under $2, I don't usually find those to be actually as easy. So the reason under 2 is not as easy is because so many traders buy 100, 200, 300,000 share positions that they're basically fighting to make just like 2 or 3 cents per share. So now those orders get stacked really close together and it compresses the range so you don't get as much volatility. So between 2 and 10 is really the sweet spot to focus. All right. And then obviously making more when I trade more shares, that makes sense. And I guess this is showing in trade price range, well, actually, that doesn't seem to be pulling it out correctly because that's not the total. So anyways, all right. So now we'll go to instrument. So the stock that I made the most on and lost the most on in the past 7 days. So that's actually nice to see. I haven't traded a lot of stocks, and even the one that I traded kind of the least, I still actually was slightly green on it. GPUS, FRGT, and ZCAR. All right, so if we look at a couple of these on the chart, GPUS is a stock that basically kind of out of nowhere popped up on our scans. You could see the daily chart down here. I'll just make this full screen. So daily chart down in the corner here, you can see this. So that nice pop right there and then pull back, and then it's continued to push higher. Yes, on lighter volume. So a little bit of a divergence there going higher on lighter volume. But nonetheless, this has had, some really nice volatility. And it really started on this day right here at 7:30. That was when the news came out. So, GPUS, and what's the catalyst? This is tied into cryptocurrency. Interesting. Then we had FRGT. FRGT makes a big move. What was the catalyst? Tied into cryptocurrency. All right. So now we've got another kind of check on our common denominator list. A lot of these stocks that made big moves in the last week have had a cryptocurrency catalyst. So definitely Monday, I'm going to be watching stocks between 2 and 10 that have a cryptocurrency catalyst. There's no question about it. Right. And if the stock has high volume, right, higher volume for me has been better, and high relative volume, then that's basically exactly what I need in order to feel like it's worth taking a trade on. So what I'm going to be looking at Monday morning, first thing when I get up, when I roll over in bed, I'm going to pull up my scans on my phone, the Day Trade Dash scanners right here on my phone, and I'm going to look at the top gainer scanner. And it's going to show me the leading percentage gainer in the entire market. It could be NXTT continuing the move, from Friday, but I don't know. We'll see. It's based on Friday's close, so that means because this closed at regular trading hours, it closed at, let's see, what was it? 236. Really, it's already gapping up 50% right now. This is going to be part of a gap, the after hours, but we'll see what it looks like on Monday morning. Now, this one has a much higher float than we would typically trade. So I'm not, and it's a Chinese company, which is sort of a wild card. So I'm not sure that we're actually going to get more action on this one, but in any case, that's to be determined. It'll depend. The things I'll look at are how it's trading on Monday, and whether or not it's easy to borrow. Because if it's easy to borrow, then it's probably going to be a big tug of war. But if it's not easy to borrow, then I might look into the filings and try to get a better sense of the ownership of these outstanding shares. So Monday morning, tomorrow morning, what I'm going to be looking at is this scan right here, looking at the leading percentage gainers at 6:30, 6:45, and trying to decide which of them seem, if any, like they're set up for potential trades coming into 7 a.m. Why 7 a.m.? That's when most retail traders come online. So most brokers, Charles Schwab, Thinkorswim, Robinhood, E-Trade, a lot of these brokers don't allow trading before 7 a.m. So there's all these traders, hundreds of thousands of them, maybe millions of accounts that can't start trading until 7 a.m. So even if you have a fantastic headline and move at 6, they can't buy it. So they're waiting until 7 a.m., waiting until 7, and then right at 7, boom, that's when volume picks up. So I'll watch to see if there's anything that looks good coming into 7 a.m. But if not, then I'll just be sitting watching the first stocks that are hitting the scan right here at or after 7 a.m. And then the first thing I'll check is what's the news catalyst. So scanner alert, news catalyst, pull up the chart. While the chart loads, which takes like a second, I'm typing in the symbol in my level 2 window. When I'm in my level 2 window, I can see if it's easy to borrow or hard to borrow. I can see what the spreads look like, and I can begin to make a decision based on watching the time and sales and seeing the flow of other orders coming through, whether or not there's enough momentum right now that I should jump in at the nearest $half and whole dollar. And of course, then at that point, I'll also be reading sort of the substance of the headline. Is it cryptocurrency? Is it something else? What is it that's driving this higher? So I'm very dialed in with my process and my system each day of how I quantify whether or not a stock is a quality, number one, and then what the catalyst is, what the current theme of the market is, and then whether or not the chart pattern is something that I feel that I have a higher likelihood of buying and making money on versus losing. And so looking at the daily chart, position of the moving averages, the intraday charts, MACD, the position of the VWAP, those are all the things that I'm going to be looking at. And I do all of that analysis in real time. And it happens very quickly. And I try to articulate as much of that as I can and then say, all right, I like this stock. This is where I'm watching it, $3. I've got my order ready at 305 and I've got my starter. And now I'm looking to continue trading it as it's moving up. And I trade these very actively. I jump in, I take a little profit. I jump back in, I take a little profit. So I'm getting in, I'm getting out. I'm not the type of trader who just buys, just sits back and just, sort of holds it for an hour. I'm trading these very actively because I know in a matter of 15 minutes how much these can move. Look at WeBuy from Friday. So WeBuy in a matter of 10 minutes went from $11 a share to $20, went up 100% in 10 minutes. Yeah, I made $20,000. It drops down, it pops back up, it drops back down, and then it squeezes all the way up to $28 a share. So, there's no question that in order to be a successful day trader, there are certain skills that you either need to have or need to develop. I didn't have any of the skills to be a successful trader when I started trading, obviously. I mean, well, maybe that's not true. There are some skills that are important that you may not realize you already have, such as decision-making ability to make a quick decision, ability to know how to use a computer. You certainly need to know how to type. A comfort taking some risk. So a bit of a risk appetite or a risk tolerance. So there are some skills that are not, as maybe specific to trading. But then there are the skills of how to read candlestick charts, how to understand how scanners work, understanding the dynamics of stock, the number of shares that have been sold through IPOs and through secondary offerings and share buybacks, and how that total float represents the level of supply, and then corresponding levels of demand when you have breaking news create these big moves in price, right? And then being able to kind of connect how the movement on these candlestick charts is actually derived from the price action that's occurring right on your level 2 window and your time in sales. So being able to read those windows and understand them. And all of that, you can have this sort of surface level understanding of it. And then the more time you spend trading and gaining experience, the deeper your understanding gets. And that's where you build this educated intuition. And it takes time to get there. But I think one of the things that's important to recognize is that right now, at least, we're in a market that's quite hot. And so if you're focusing on the right type of stocks to trade, that's probably one of the most important things just from the beginning. If you're trying to day trade the wrong stuff, you're just going to get smoked. So make sure you're trading the right stuff. Make sure you're seeing other people are making money on these stocks. Now, if you're losing on them, then that's because your entries and exits are not dialed in yet, which is not surprising as a beginner trader that you might buy too high and hold too long, and got to get that kind of dialed in a little bit more. So that comes down to getting better at recognizing the subtle early indicators that a bullish pattern is forming that presents a low risk opportunity to buy a strong stock. And that's something that, again, with experience gets better. So what's the best way to learn how to day trade? It's to practice in a simulator. Certainly to watch episodes like this, to watch my full-length episodes and training episodes on YouTube, or the ones that are part of our Warrior Pro curriculum, and just to practice, just to get in there and practice, but to make sure you're doing it in a safe environment. So if you lose at the beginning, you're not losing hard-earned money. So guess what? If you want to learn in real time and you want my market commentary, you want access to my live audio video broadcast, you want to use these same tools that I'm using every single day, the charts, the scanner, and the newsfeed, you could do a 2-week trial for $20 here at Warrior Trading. So I'll put the link and I'll pin it to the top of the comments and I'll put it in the description. And if you want to spend some time today, or tomorrow studying, I have a couple episodes I've recently uploaded that I'll put links to here. One is how to stop selling your winners too soon. That's really important. And I've got a couple full-length trainings on how to perform technical analysis the right way that I think you'll benefit from watching. So make sure you guys check those out. A reminder, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so manage your risk, take it slow, trade in the sim before going live with real money. And I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. I'll be streaming.